Whipping horses. Are you sick to death of videos about whipping horses thanks to the 2024 Paris Olympics? I'm not going to go into detail because unless you've been living on Mars, you know all about the horse whipping by an Olympic champion that has flooded the news, social media, YouTube. It is absolutely everywhere. So we've got to get on the horse whipping bandwagon. Fair income. People that usually make car videos on YouTube are making horse whipping videos. Influencers normally show you the latest see-through lingerie they've bought, the latest dresses or jewellery that they've bought, the new bargains they bought. These influencers, they're getting on to the horse whipping and they have never even petted a horse. So anyway, we're going to make on that bandwagon. How many horses does it take to tow a bandwagon? On that bandwagon, we're going to do our horse whipping video. So first thing I'm going to talk about is black hats. Black hats, what's that got to do with a horse whipping? Well, what I want to tell you is there was a great example of horses and horse thinking is that a horse was bought by a person and they thought it was the perfect horse. It behaved beautifully. Everything about it was perfect. And then one day they bought a new hat and it was a black Stetson. And they went out to their horse just as normal and the horse went mental. And what it was we have got to think differently with animals, particularly horses. There's a famous adage, if a horse can't think like the human has to think like the horse. And what had happened is sometime in that horse's past, perhaps when it was very young, something had happened with a black hat that terrified it. The horse didn't go, oh, that's just a black hat. The horse took a mental picture of the black hat and it had it in its head so that if it ever saw a black hat again, it was going to save its own life. And that's why I could come out to Cody, everything's fine as normal, but something happened way back before I had him and it triggers, and so then Cody doesn't think, oh, it's just Steve wearing a different hat. So if I've sort of explained, there's a great example that horse would have had to have been either throw away the black hat or do some desensitizing. So what I want to show you was supposed to be about horse whipping. So what I'm going to show you firstly is what have we got here? Does this count as a horse whip, do you think? Do you think? I mean, it's not really a whip, is it? It's got these things on the end. So you've got this sort of thing, and when a horse has been mistreated with these, it will not like them, it'll run amok, and it'll carry on like a mad thing. But in Cody's case, with the one like this, because he's a big Stradivarius fan, he thinks this is for his neck violin. I hope you can see that neck violin being played there on Cody's neck because he's a big Stradivarius fan. So there we've got that. Now what we're going to do now, I'm making a video. Cup of tea would be great, thank you. What I'm going to do now is as we move on, I'm going to get my assistant here. He can hold this for... I'll get my assistant, never work with animals or children. In the rehearsal, he held that perfectly for me. No, he's not interested. So what we're going to do is we're going to move on. And what we're moving on to now is, oh, this is a bit longer with a thing on the end. Is this a whip, do you think? Is this a whip? Do you think this counts as a whip? So let's have a look at this. And we'll go leg, leg, back, back. I mean, is this too big to be a violin? This could possibly be Cody's double bass. Could that be a double bass, do you think? I'm not sure how you play double bass. I think you have to sort of stand on a double bass. So anyway, there we go. There's another one. Now we'll try again. Would you be prepared to hold this one? Now what I should have done is I should have rubbed some apple juice or something on the shaft. Have you ever rubbed apple juice on the shaft? I'll say no more on that topic. See, are we going to hold that for a little while? No. Okay, so now we move on. So if we've just dealt with the air pistol of whips, and then perhaps the .22 caliber of whips, what we move on to now, I won't say this is the 44 Magnum of whips. Perhaps what we've got here is the 357 Magnum of whips, because this is a lot like the one that made the infamous video. So you might say to me, Steve, why have you got that? Have you got that to flog your horses till they're running with sweat and terrified and out of their minds in fear? Ask me, is Cody out of his mind in fear, do you think? Tell me, mate, I'm going to whip this round your legs. Whip it! Whip it round his legs. Look at that, round his legs. I don't know. You might not be able to see his legs. Trust me, that is being whipped around his legs. So we'll whip it around the back legs. Whipped, can you see that? Whipped and wrapped around the back legs. Over the back. Is this the biggest violin you've ever... You know, they say that's the smallest violin. Is this the biggest violin you've ever seen? So there you go. There's that whip. Now, what I'm hoping to add to the end of this, when you get to the very end, you'll see me standing on Cody, standing on his back, cracking a whip, and I don't do that anymore because when I turn 70, my dear wife, clearly she loves me and she's not in it for the money, because she asked me to stop standing on Cody's back. A couple of my family members asked me to stop doing that, so I don't actually stand on his back anymore. But the video I'm hoping to put at the end here, is the video of the 44 Magnum of whips. The most powerful whip in the world, and will take your head clean off. So look at this, eh? This is a fair income stock whip. Now I have to be really careful with this, because I stopped practicing with a stock whip a long time ago. And so now the thing I'm most likely to do is not scare Cody with the whip as I flog him left and right, flog him with that whip, flog him. It's more likely I'll take my own bloody eye out, because these things, the crack that you hear is actually the sound barrier breaking. If I'd done some research, I could tell you what speed that was, the speed of sound. 760, I wonder how far, miles per hour. How embarrassing to be an Australian and you can't crack a stock whip. I used to be able to. Anyway, I think the point of the story is this video is getting on the old bandwagon of whipping horses thanks to the 2024 Olympics, and I'm not making any other comment. I've talked about the black hats and horses desensitised. You can see how many whips we've got on this property with our horses. You can see that for the entire video I have been constantly, that woman that's in all this trouble has been millions, hundreds of millions of views, hundreds of millions. She whipped her horse 24 times. I think so far, Cody, during the course of this video, chunks taken out only because of the wind. Goddamn wind. There was no wind when I started making this. So what we can see though is, continuing on with this video, is that this horse, this poor, maltreated. I think maltreated is the word that was drawn up when Australia had a Prime Minister called Malcolm Fraser. That was maltreated. He said life wasn't meant to be easy. He was a multi-millionaire Prime Minister, and he said life wasn't meant to be easy. It's very easy for multi-millionaires to say life wasn't meant to be easy, and I sort of say that too, because do you hear that, Cody? Life wasn't meant to be easy, mate. Did you have it any easier? So on that note, we are going to put our 47 whips away. This horse has now been flogged so many times, you can see he just can't take it anymore. So we're going to have a little break, and then we might come back with more bondage videos. Shall we come back with more bondage and ropes? What do you think? Tell me what you think. He's just happy for an excuse to do nothing. Righty-o. Cheers.